One of the most stressful things that can happen to any parent or professional in the autism world is when kids elope, whether they leave the house, they get lost, they dart away, they wander, and they are much more at risk for drowning and for getting hit by cars and all kinds of things. So today I am interviewing Melissa Schiefelbein, who is both a mom and a BCBA, and we are talking about ways to prevent these safety issues and a tool that's been out for 10 years that I just started using that can literally decrease all the safety issues that I just talked about and increase independence. And I'm excited to interview Melissa Schiefelbein all about that today. Okay, Melissa, it is great to meet you today. And we're going to be talking all about safety and really some ways that we can not only improve safety, but also improve independence. So thanks for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm a huge fan. Thank you so
Uh,
much.
Great. So why don't you tell our listeners briefly about your fall into the autism world, when you started noticing signs of autism in your son?
Yeah, I began my career in early childhood development, teaching early grades, and my son was 2 years old. And I had a friend who had a child on the spectrum kind of say, "Oh, you might want to consider it." Having him evaluated. They're just seeing some things. His language wasn't developing, and I really didn't pick up on these things until I saw him in a classroom with other 2-year-olds. So we had him evaluated. He was diagnosed with severe autism. And I was told point blank, he's probably never going to speak. You will probably need to be in a residential um, home in later life. So obviously, as a parent, you think, I need to know what I'm doing here. I need to know how to help my child the best way that I can. So I observed him in ABA. I was in every one of his therapy sessions, and I thought, this is the way that I'm going to connect with him and teach him. So I became an RBT and then a board certified behavior analyst. And now I work with parents all the time. That's where my passion is. So
And how old is your son now?
he is 12, and let me tell you, he's nothing like what they told me he would be. He is fully verbal, fully independent. He has a YouTube channel.
Wow.
Yeah, he does all of his self-care stuff. He manages his own like learning school schedule. He's like far and beyond what you would expect for even a 12-year-old. So
Wow, that's amazing. So I know you have a story, and you work for AngelSense, and I am now partnering with AngelSense because I've tried the product and I think it's amazing. And we're going to link in the show notes, marybarbera.com/angel sense to get more information. And, you know, but we're going to talk about other ways to get safety information, out. And so tell me how you came upon AngelSense and now you work with them. So tell us your story of how you got concerned about safety.
well, so my son was starting school, and where we were living at the time, 3 was preschool, and he was signed up for this ABA preschool. And first day of school, so already, as a parent, anxiety is up high because it's the first time I'm relinquishing him and not going with him. Um, he was put on the wrong bus, and
The
he's
first day?
first day of school, wrong bus. He's nonverbal. He ends up at a school that they don't know who
On
he
the
is
way there, he
on
was
the
put on
way
the
there.
wrong bus.
It was
Oh,
the
Lord. I've
craziest
heard of
thing.
the other way, but you put on the wrong bus coming home. But oh my
No,
goodness. So first day, he's at the wrong school and nobody knows even who he is.
or what triggers him, or how to find out where he's supposed to belong. So it was the craziest thing. They had his name on a list for the bus pickup. So he gets on the bus, and I'm thinking, it's a little odd because it didn't look like a specialized bus, but they had his name and I had to trust that this was where he was supposed to be. And so I get a call from school, is Caden coming today?
Oh, no.
So an hour of just mad dash trying to find where he was. So that was the moment that I had a choice. Either he does not go to school or I drive him everywhere or I find a solution to where he can safely get to where he needs to be and have these life experiences that every kid has the right to have. So that's where we found AngelSense. I looked at everything else, but AngelSense is set up for that, to let you know exactly without a doubt where he is, how to get in touch with him, how to get in touch with the people around him. So if that were, it would never have happened again, but if he were in that type of situation again, I could talk to people around him and actually say, don't grab him, he doesn't like to be touched, let me talk to, just different ways to help him manage in those types of situations.
Wow, that's amazing. I mean, that's always, I think, a parent's worst nightmare is when, you know, your child gets lost or gets on the wrong bus or whatever. I mean, even if you have a typically developing child who can talk, but it's really just heartbreaking. And I have plenty of stories, as my listeners probably know. And I have a 28-year-old with severe autism, and his name is Lucas. And when he was 2 and 3 and up until 10, he would elope from the house, elope from the mall, like get out of the double stroller because we also had our son Spencer. So he would get out, run, the opposite way in the mall, and you just didn't even know where he went. He got out of the house a couple of times. He got lost in a mall a couple times. So and I have many, many clients, past clients who have similar horror stories. And um, one of them was in New York City, and mom and dad, an only child. He's about 6 at the time, and mom thought dad had him. Dad thought mom had him, and they were going through a detector to get on a ferry to go see the Statue of Liberty. And somebody's belt beeped, and they got distracted, and all of a sudden the child's gone.
Oh,
Now you're in New York City,
oh my
and you don't
God.
know if he went towards the ferry, if he went outside. Panic, obviously. I mean, he was found safely, thank God. But it was, it was 10 minutes. It doesn't matter if it's 10 minutes, if it's 1 minute, if it's 10 minutes, or if it's an hour. It's just, and then I have a very tragic story. I have one statistic, and we can link the reference in the show notes, is people with autism are 160 times more likely to experience a fatal or non-fatal drowning than typically developing children and adults. And tragically, my, by far worst story of someone I know is one of my clients who I served when he was 2 and 3. When he was 6, on a summer sunny day, he just left his dad's house, went next door to a neighbor's pool, and drowned. And yeah, so it was so heartbreaking. And he had never been in the neighbor's pool. The neighbor wasn't home. The gate was left ajar. So, and I did an interview with his mom, Melissa. The little boy's name is Braden, and we can link that in our show notes here underneath. I think it was like a 15-20 minute interview. And I mean, she was great when it was a few years after his death. Um, but she has a lot of safety tips too. But the important thing is our kids are at risk. They're a risk for not only drowning, but for, if they leave and it's cold and they leave without warm clothes, or they are in danger of traffic, and all kinds of things. And we don't want to make this episode all about like all the horror stories, and but there is a solution. I know way back when Lucas was 2 and 3, there was some kind of device out through the police department and that sort of thing. Now, AngelSense has only come on the scene, well, came on the scene about 10 years ago, and it really is much more than a GPS tracker. I do have the couple devices we tried just to show you guys. We're going to talk about other things too, but there's a little device, and this is more recommended for kids. And the little device, obviously, if you just put this in the pocket, it's going to get lost. So there's a little baggie that the device goes into. And then there's this locking mechanism that you can actually attach this bag with the device to clothing. And so that way it doesn't bother the child. They don't even know it's there. You could, they can't get it off. And this thing tracks, but it also has the ability to set it up with an app on the phone where I can do one-way calling, where I call and just listen so I can see if Lucas is having a problem, if the person that's with him is talking nicely or talking at all, or if I can tell if they're in a store, or I can also tell exactly the route they took to get there. I can tell how much time he spent in the car. I can tell how fast the hab worker has been driving. Um, and then, you know, there's other features too, like there's two-way calling where I think you talked about this, Melissa, like when you're if your child by chance should get on the wrong bus and get to the wrong place, you would you would get an alert on your phone saying in a place you haven't named yet. So you
Yep.
name the school, so you get an alert. So then you could do a two-way call, and it doesn't have to be answered. There's no buttons to push. You could just say, I'm what's your son's name? Caden?
Aiden. Yep.
Kate, I'm Caden's mom. Please talk to me. It doesn't look like he's in the right place. You
Right.
know, if he's upset, Caden, it's mommy. It's okay. Take some deep breaths. Like you could talk to him. The same procedures work with this watch, which is meant for adults, and we trialed the watch too. And I think for Lucas, the watch is great because it can become a part of his daily routine. He puts on the watch at night, he charges the watch, and it does a similar thing. There's also an SOS button where the child or adult can contact you, or the team could contact you. There's just a lot of different features. I'm not even covering all of them here. I just um, and and there's other procedures that we can talk about to increase the safety, but I am really excited about this product because like I've heard about it for years, but I just really didn't I thought, well, he's got a GPS on his phone, and like I probably don't need this, but it's providing a lot of data.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And it's cool too because when Caden was doing school, right now he's doing like virtual learning because he's just able to function really well that way. But he was in an elementary school, and you can even like indoor map, so you can set zones within the school. So I got to see, when he was going to his intervention classes, and when he was in his homeroom, and when he went to different locations in the school, and I could play back and see his day. So that helped me facilitate conversation with him when he got home. Instead of how was school, it was good. It could be like, I saw you had music class today. What did you guys work on? Or I saw you had gym today. What did you play? And we were able to really have a good conversation. So it's safety 100% too, but there's all these other benefits that you
Mhm.
have when you use this, because you really use it as a tool to be as close to as you can to just being with your child all day.
Mhm.
Incredible.
And because Caden is now fully verbal and can operate his phone, do you, do you still see a need for Angel Sense for him?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Every day. Because here's what happens with the phone. The phone is capable of other things, and those other things are very interesting. So your phone battery can die. There's something too with the response effort that goes into if he's in a crisis or he's in a situation where he needs my help. It's less likely that he's going to go into his backpack or into his pocket, pull out his phone, find mom in his contacts, call mom. It's much more likely that he's going to press the button on his watch, like, I need your help right now. And if I notice that something is not seeming right, he's in a spot that he shouldn't be in, again, if I call his phone, it could be dead. He could be doing something, swipe away the call. Um, it's this, he doesn't have to do anything. It just auto picks up and I'm talking to him right then and there. So I love it for that peace of mind. And it allows me, because now that he is so independent, and I do attribute a lot of that to Angel Sense. Without getting that, he'd never be taking the bus. He might not have these opportunities to practice to become more independent. But I want him to get more confident in doing things on his own and not have me always hovering and just making, are you okay? Are you okay? I want him to know, like, you're okay, you got this, because I have that ability to know where he is and know if he needs help.
Hmm. Yeah. I'm just thinking as you're talking, I have a friend who has two adult sons on the spectrum, and one is fully verbal. He's even driving. He's, out in the community by himself. But he had an incident last year where he had a mental health issue and ended up the family called 911. He ended up kind of being in a state where he scratched um, a healthcare worker, and he was actually arrested. Uh,
Oh my.
at that point, I mean, it all resolved and the case was dropped and everything, but horrendous. And at that point, a year or two ago, when that happened, I um, I at that point got Lucas a Meta Alert bracelet because this young man was was even to the point where he was so, functioning by himself independently that he was driving, but they didn't, say he had autism. And, unfortunately, a lot of times in a crisis situation, if they know the person has autism, it's a little bit better,
Right.
um, unfortunately or fortunately. But so I got a Med Alert bracelet because at he Lucas used to have a Med Alert bracelet when he was little, but then when he turned 16, I got him a non-driver's ID at the motor vehicle department, which I would highly recommend too. Like, you need an ID, whether your child's going to drive or not drive, or maybe drive in the future. But when the kids turn 16, they should get an official ID. So I was like, oh, he doesn't need a bracelet because he's got an ID. But to look at Lucas, across the room or whatever, he's a big guy, if he starts having a problem, having a medical alert bracelet would, with autism on it. And a bunch of us that are friends with this person, we all got medical alert bracelets. So then I'm like, okay, I have the non-driver's ID and the medical alert bracelet. He even has a phone with a GPS on it. So I was hesitant to, you know, put much, like, I didn't know I needed Angel Sense, but through trialing it, it really does, even if your child's fully verbal, it really would, in a lot of ways, they need it more than my son, who has somebody with him, because it is a way to expand independence. And as a nurse and a behavior analyst and a mom, like, I'm seeing the implications for, dementia, head injury, Down syndrome. There are safety issues, and the independence, there's a fine line between being able to be left alone or being able to go out into the community and take a walk on a path. But with Angel Sense, you can even set the parameter. Like if they get outside of that path, you could have a pre-recorded um, uh, talking to them, which says, "Get back on the path. It's time to come back home. You're going too far. Turn around and get back on your path." Where it's not even, I mean, I'm sure it would alert you too. I haven't played around with all the features, but I mean, that's like life changing.
It's incredible. And think about too, like, so a dear friend of mine has a parent with dementia and Alzheimer's, and they're using it to let their parent age in place. So she's providing support to her parents from like states away, which is incredible. And I think about these implications. So I firmly believe like with adults and with children likewise, we we enable their independence as much as it, it's like the energy we put into it is the energy that is going to be the output of it. So if we're constantly like, you can't do this, I got to be watching you, I got to be doing, then we kind of get into this like vicious cycle, and then they believe that they can't do it either because we're not giving them the opportunity. And it's like this has been such a huge part of our story because it's like, okay, I think you can. I think you can do this. And I like can literally see where you are and I can give you that support. So I'm gonna let you do it. And it's like a muscle. So that first time that I put him on the bus and I see him where he's going, I see him get to school, I'm like, okay, we got this, we can do this. And like the more independence like you allow, the more confidence builds up, and then the more that they are able to do. And that's really what I'm working with parents on all the time. It's just allowing for that and flexing that muscle, building it, and like letting these opportunities happen, because it's difficult when you put the energy into like, oh, I can't let you do this, and then in turn like they don't get the opportunity to do it. So it's incredible, and it's not the best. I can't even paint the picture the best way that I would love to, because like you said, there's so much to it. But that's really the beautiful thing that I've seen with this.
Yeah, yeah. So left early childhood teaching and you became an RBT and then a BCBA, and now you work with Angel Sense and also with trialing the different devices and getting these set up. Um, all of your customer support people are all Angel Sense users. They're all moms and grandmothers, and it's amazing. Everybody's very positive, and you are also working for a new initiative through Angel Sense called Angel Sense Learning, which do you want to just tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So AngelSense was always kind of built to be a tool for life, a tool for independence. And it's an incredible tool for safety. So we've covered that, but we noticed that, some of our parents were using this to kind of initiate that build up towards independence. They were using it like I bet he could go check the mail on his own, and having that way to like monitor to ensure that elopement didn't occur. So we took that idea and we brought the behavior analytic approach to it. Like, what if we had this program where people could work with the BCBA and understand how to use the assistive technology Angel Sense to promote independence? So we started Angel Sense Learning, which includes a course. It includes guidance sessions directly with myself and another clinician who's also a BCBA, and asynchronous communication. And we really work with the parents and say, what does your day-to-day look like? Where are your challenges? Where do you see opportunities for growth? And then having the Angel Sense as that way to fade the one-to-one support. So we've worked on things like using pre-recorded messages for potty training schedules. We've used it as like using the SOS button in non-stressful situations like scavenger hunts. You got to your next clue, we're going to press this, just to teach up to be able to use the SOS button in a crisis if needed. So understanding how this can really help parents use the technology to help their child gain more of that independence and fade less of that direct one-to-one support that they might need.
Hmm. Yeah, I love that. I love, teaching people shaping and chaining and desensitization. In my newest book, Turn Autism Around, I have a whole chapter 13 on going to the doctor's dentist haircuts without a fuss, and a lot about desensitization. So a lot of people out there are like, my child would never wear this watch or never wear a medical or bracelet or whatever. But we both know, Melissa and I are both behavior analysts, and we know it's not about strapping it on and letting the child cry. Like we are, everything has to be positive. And, but through a desensitization program, through pairing and shaping and chaining and positive reinforcement, children can learn to do a lot of things, like kids can learn to accept insulin shots and can learn to accept, blood draws, and they can learn to accept a lot of things, and even make it, part of their day, even make it reinforcing to put the watch on. Um, so so it's great that AngelSense has now, expanded a bit with AngelSense Learning. Also, they have a little mini course with that, as well as some coaching with Melissa and other BCBAs. But we also have a full course, toddler, school age. We have the Verbal Behavior Bundle membership. We've got a lot of um, courses, community, coaching. We have a high touch coaching program because, safety is number one. I mean, I say all the time that my big goals for both of my sons, one's a doctor, one's still has moderate to severe autism. My three goals for my sons, all of your kids, all of your clients, are to be as safe as possible, as independent as possible, and as happy as possible.
Love that.
And so it's a lot, though. I know, there's different tools, and you know I think AngelSense could become a part of that picture for some families, but there are other ways. If there's also like a funding department, a work with schools department, all at AngelSense. So if you're thinking, like, I'd love to try that, Mary, but it's probably expensive. I mean, check out the details, marybarbera.com/angelsense. And then check out the details. If you think that the cost is prohibitive, contact AngelSense. They have a funding department. I know for a fact that the autism regional centers in California have paid for at least one person that I know of. Another, Kelsey, our community manager, who was on podcast number 3, she used AngelSense way back, like years ago in Alaska when it first came out through a Medicaid waiver. So, safety is paramount.
Mm.
If you don't have safety, and us as parents don't have reassurance that our kids are in a safe place with people that we trust, it just gives us peace of mind. It's one more tool that you can use, but we talked about a bunch of different tools, and, to prevent elopement, you know, locks and gates and alarms on doors and Metalurk bracelets and um, phone GPSs and any and all of the above. Um, I know it sounds like a lot, but once you have safety in place and you can build independence, that should lead to happiness and less stress for the entire family and the professionals that work with kids as well.
Absolutely.
So, part of my podcast goals, let's just wrap it up here, are not to just help the kids with stress and to lead happier lives, but also to help the parents and professionals out there. So, Melissa, do you have any self-care tips or stress management tools that you use on a daily basis?
Knowledge. Knowledge is so being a parent in itself. So I have, my son on the spectrum. I have two toddlers, and you get really overwhelmed at times, and you might think a product or a service or a thing is like what you need, but you having consistent, like learning consistently these ways in which to implement strategies that are effective. When I became a BCBA, that knowledge helped immensely. So your courses are a huge inspiration to me as well, because it's like when you know how to implement those procedures, having a big picture goal, identifying step one, step two, how do we get there? How do we implement that? Um, that took an immense amount of stress out of my life, the way that I parent, the way that I even work with myself, because we're always working with ourselves as well. Um, Knowing what those procedures are makes them less scary and makes your life less stressful. So if there's one message that I can get out to parents, it is learn, like learn the things, do the things, because I promise you that will take a bunch of stress off of your shoulders. That's the reason I live and breathe to speak to you today, is getting that message out.
Knowledge is power. I love
It
that.
is. It is.
Thank you so much, Melissa, for your time. And I look forward to keeping in touch and collaborating in the future. I think we're both big fans of AngelSense and big fans of, helping parents and professionals get to whatever the next level is for them. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Mary. Thank you.